another example I will give you. Now it's criminalized to say from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. Okay, we know why. Because the true slogan is now being actualized. From the river to the sea, Israel shall be free.
Right.
But I want to say something else. I know this slogan. You know whose slogan this was at the origin? The one state solution slogan. Why don't we all live in binational free state? Originally, this was not a Palestinian fundamentalist slogan. The point was not throw them into the sea or whatever. And how they totally falsified. Or another thing.
Oh, yes.
BDS. Boycott, divest. I know this. I had some problems in Europe, but I know. This was in Israel. It began as a mix. There were almost more Jews in this BDS movement than Palestinians. All of a sudden, I don't know how is it in the United States, but in Germany, it's not just that it's not tolerated, it's now officially proclaimed a criminal act.
Yeah, it's getting close to that in the United States. I mean, that can't happen outright, because of the First Amendment, but there are a number of states that have laws against anybody who works for a company that does business with the state, being involved in BDS, etc., that really stretch the limits of what you can do constitutionally to free speech. But yeah, I mean, I think that your point about the river to the sea is really important because don't get me wrong, if things change politically so that there was actually a possibility of a two-state solution, I would certainly accept that as the most justice that was, that was possible politically, and not make the perfect enemy of the good. But also, if you accept certain kinds of basic liberal democratic principles that in other contexts most people in Western societies would accept, then that kind of one-state solution would be what you would end up endorsing.
You know that many Israelis and Palestinians who are officially, publicly, for two-state solution, then privately said exactly like you said. They said this would meant just freezing the divisions, but the only authentic solution, and I had with them very frank conversations, and we said, of course, you never know what can happen. Some safety valves or how should be built into it. Like, one nation shouldn't rule exclusively. To somehow enforce a coalition, maybe, why not? Because Jews were so molested, Holocaust, and so on, to say the prime minister or president should be in principle a Jew or what. It can be done. Sure. Like in Lebanon, before the catastrophe, there was such an unwritten rule, So again, all I'm saying is I am not an idiot. I'm not saying, disband Israeli secret services, open the borders. No, there are fundamentalist Arabs and so on. But I agree totally with you here. The only authentic solution would have been this. And Israel has now a very dark plan. It's not even dark, it's public.
Yeah.
They didn't already annex West Bank because then the problem would be you have to give them voting rights.
Right.
So the plan is now to limit the Palestinian presence in the West Bank, to throw them out to three, basically, around Jenin, around Nablus, Hebron, they're already ethnically cleansing, Hebron, and around Ramallah. And this then become literally some kind of Bantustan ghettos and so on. And of course, as such, they don't have voting rights and so on and so on. At the same time, you push them outside of the country as many as possible. But and another thing to conclude, would you agree with me that I don't mean this in an authentic sense. A true emancipatory movement you cannot destroy, but in a much more vulgar way. You cannot totally annihilate Hamas.
Oh, totally. Yes. I think it's absurd to say
the leaders, many of them will find a way to escape. They will just reorganize, become even more brutal elsewhere. Yes. Intelligent Israelis are repeating this. No matter how ruthless it is, violent destruction of Hamas will not do the job.
No.
Will not even do the job of destroying Hamas.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this is and so on.
Yeah. No, this is crazy. I mean, that's like the way that everybody in mainstream Western discourse talks about this as if eliminating Hamas is a possible outcome of this. I mean, look, as Israeli propaganda itself emphasizes, the top leadership of Hamas isn't even in Gaza; they're in Qatar. So they're not going to be eliminated. And certainly, when you look at a situation like this, where last numbers I saw out of estimates about the total population of Gaza, I see like 2.2 or 2.3 million. Out of those, 1.8 million have been displaced from their homes since this started. There has been, the numbers of deaths are absolutely staggering. I mean, there are more thousands more people have been killed in Gaza than were killed in Iraq in 2003. It's several thousand larger than the confirmed numbers in Ukraine. I understand a lot of people think that that's the real numbers are much higher, but they have given that, I mean, I don't understand a scenario where that wouldn't lead this is what you're saying, right? To massive future recruitment for Hamas. Look, Hamas is terrible. I have zero sympathy for Hamas, but Hamas is going to exist until the conditions that lead young Palestinian men to join Hamas are changed. I mean, I just don't see any possible way around that. So then the question is, well, if that's not it, what would actually count as Israel's quote unquote winning, right? What would winning be?
Yeah. And also, it's even more prohibited to say what I said a couple of times, that I don't justify Hamas, but
sure.
What I would have done, yes, I would try to fight Hamas, but at the same time, especially on the West Bank, I would make a mega move if I were Israel. No, you are guaranteed, give them new rights and so on, to make this clear. Without this, well, as I wrote already in my Frankfurt speech, Palestinians are not even given a clear option now. They are living some limbo existence without any firm promises, do this, do that. They are literally pushing them into Hamas. Do they have any other, because now I'll make a point that you will, I hope, like. Mm-hmm. In present state, I'm so sorry, I'm disgusted even me by myself, but did you notice how now there is a slight shift in the opinion, in the sense that it's permitted to say, we are for Israel, but my God, they suffer a lot, Palestinians, can we limit their suffering? But there is something so hypocritical in it. Palestinians are good if they just suffer as victims. But isn't it natural that you resist? I mean, some pro-Palestinian guy wonderfully quoted, he's not my favorite person because he was against Haiti nonetheless, Thomas Jefferson, who said something like, when there is justice, you should obey it. When there is injustice, you resist.
Yes.
They are pushing the Palestinians into this, and that's the point of my disgusting phone call imagination.
Yeah, well, look. I mean,
they are pushing them into this. They want this, no? It's
absolutely.
And also, Palestinians know this terrible partiality of Western European reaction. For example, do you know this argument? It was made, I think, in the United Nations by the Palestinian representative. Very simple point. You remember when Russians were bombing electricity and so on in Ukrainian cities.
Yes. Yep.
They immediately proclaimed this a war crime.
Mhm.
Immediately. What about Israel doing exactly the same with even worse consequences in Gaza?
Yeah, I mean, this is the I saw on Breaking Point's Crystal Ball put together this montage of Anthony Blinken, of Kirby, of all these different U.S. officials, where the very same official would talk about Russia and Ukraine, and they would make very clear statements. These are outrageous war crimes, which, by the way, just so nobody gets this wrong, I agree with. I think it was right, but then they would and then she would play next to it the clip of the same person saying, well, it's war, civilians are going to die, maybe Israel's gone too far, but I'm not going to play judge and jury about that.
Yeah, that's popular. Here, all of a sudden, is big skepticism.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, who's to say? It's
But
like
this really worries me. You know why?
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.